Week 3 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to drop so far this week. The first guy, Joey Gallo with the New York Yankees. So I know Gallo, this guy definitely has 35 to 40 home run potential. But so far this season here with this Yankee team, he's been an outright train wreck, and he's not getting the job done. Right now, he's been dropped in 5% of fantasy leagues. So on the season here for Gallo, 7 for 48. 1 run, no homers, 1 RBI, 22 strikeouts, a 146 batting average, and a 255 on base. So we know Gallo is either a home run or a walk, but he's not even hitting home runs right now. I know the short porch in Yankee Stadium, he could get them in bunches once he gets hot, but he's definitely a tricky guy right now to own in fantasy leagues. If you don't want to drop him, you definitely should bench him until he gets hot or whatever. But how long could you wait as well until Gallo could really get going for this Yankee team? So the last few games for him: April 20th at Detroit, 0 for 1. April 21st at Detroit, 1 for 4. April 22nd versus Cleveland, 0 for 4. April 23rd versus Cleveland, 1 for 3 with a run. And April 24th versus Cleveland, 1 for 4 with an RBI and 3 strikeouts. So you know the strikeouts are going to be there. The walks really even haven't been there. And he's in a total bind right now is Gallo with this Yankee team. And I'm very surprised at least he don't have 3 or 4 homers under his belt, even if he's going to have the low batting average. So if you want to sit and wait, I would wait another week or two if you don't want to drop him. But in shallow leagues, you drop him off your roster. You know he could get hot at any moment, especially with his power. But right now, he's just not getting the job done. And it's surprising, especially in that short porch in right field in Yankee Stadium. Like I mentioned, you would think he would have at least a few home runs to go with the bad average and on base, but it's just not the case right now for Gallo. And we could even see the Yankees start benching him if this continues to go down, where he's not getting it done at all. The next guy is Luke Voit of the San Diego Padres. So the former Yankee, he's banged up with a biceps injury, and that's been the problem for Voit over the last few seasons. We know when he's on the field, he's definitely got a lot of 30 to 35 home run potential, and even 2 seasons ago, leading the league in home runs, even though it was the shortened season in 2020. So on the season here for Voit, before he went on the IL with the bicep injury, 6 for 42. Another guy, no home runs, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, 5 runs scored, a 143 average, but a 315 on base. So right here, if guys like him and Gallo aren't hitting home runs, you're not really getting much out of them for fantasy teams. And now with the injury, I think he's a player you could get away from right now is Voit. No doubt about it. He could come back on fire and hitting the baseball, but he's been dropped in 7% of fantasy leagues. In the last few games before he went on the injured list, April 15th versus Atlanta, 0 for 4. April 16th versus Atlanta, 0 for 4. April 18th versus Cincinnati, 0 for 2 with an RBI. April 19th versus Cincinnati, 0 for 3. And April 22nd versus the Dodgers, 0 for 3. So he wasn't playing every day as well, even though we got the DH now in the National League. So right now, Yankees traded him for a reason as well, pretty much for a no-name who was in Double-A. And right now, he's not getting the job done here as Luke Voit. So I would go out there and drop him off my roster and see if you could get anything better, because right now he's not getting the job done is Luke Voit. And he's injured. Who knows how long he'll be out with the bicep injury. Last season, he missed a lot of time as well with an injury. So this week, he's an easy drop, in my opinion. The next guy is Mitch Garver of the Texas Rangers. So Mitch Garver, over the last couple seasons, it just hasn't been the same for him like it was. And this season, I thought a change of scenery would help him with Texas, especially with a pretty decent lineup around him with Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Cole Calhoun in there, Brad Miller, who's been off to a good start. But that just hasn't been the case on the season here. 8 for 51, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 157 average, and a 267 on base. I know catch is a very weak position for fantasy baseball, but right now Mitch Garver, he's just not getting the job done. And another guy at least shows some power, but he hasn't, with only the 1 home run on the season. So the last few games here for Garver: April 19th at Seattle, 0 for 4. April 20th at Seattle, 0 for 4 with an RBI. April 21st at Seattle, 0 for 4 with a run. April 22nd in Oakland, 0 for 1. April 23rd at Oakland, 1 for 4. April 24th at Oakland, 0 for 4. And April 25th versus Houston, 1 for 4. So a lot of 0 for 4s or 1 for 4s in there here for Garver. And right now, he's still owned in 75% of fantasy leagues, which I think that's too much, to be honest with you. Even though, like I said, I know catch is a pretty bad position in fantasy baseball. But this guy, he's not getting anything going. No doubt about it, he could break out of the slump at any time. When the weather gets nicer and him gets more acclimated with his new team over there in Texas. But right now, if there's better catching options on your waiver wire, I would drop off Garver. And if he gets hot, you go out there and try to get him. But right now, he's just not producing or hitting home runs or nothing. Is Garver. And the next hitter is Jorge Soler of the Miami Marlins. So a lot of hitters on this list, very similar guys, big power number guys with low averages, but they're not even bringing power to the table right now. So last season, Soler, he went to Atlanta, and he had a great second half after getting traded to the Braves at the MLB trade deadline. But so far this season, staying in the NL East with the Miami Marlins. He's off to a horrible start, 11 for 58, 1 home run only, 3 RBIs, 5 runs scored, an awful 190 batting average, and a 299 on base percentage. So right there, that's not going to get the job done. But like I mentioned, Soler, we know he's got massive power. A few seasons ago, hitting 48 home runs. And last season, he did go 27 and 70 and helping this Atlanta Brave team make the World Series. But now with his new team in Miami and less protection in the lineup, obviously, that just hasn't been the case. April 19th versus St. Louis 0 for 2. April 20th versus St. Louis 0 for 4. April 21st versus St. Louis 1 for 4. April 22nd in Atlanta 2 for 3. April 23rd at Atlanta 1 for 5 with a run and a ribbon. April 24th in Atlanta 1 for 4 with a run. So right here, he's batting first to third usually for this Marlin team. And this Marlin team, they're a pretty decent team this season. I'm not going to lie. And they're in a very tough division with the Mets, Phillies, and Braves here as well. But Jorge Soler, he just hasn't got the job done. And we'll see if he could turn things around. But right now, if you don't want to wait on him, I totally get it because he's not hitting for power. At least if he was hitting 190 to 200 with 3 or 4 homers right now, you would say I could wait and see on this guy. But right now, only 1 home run for Soler. And he's been dropped in 3% of fantasy leagues, but he's still owned in 68% of fantasy leagues. But this week here, if you want to drop him, totally understandable. But he's also a guy that could get hot with the power at any time and help carry your team for a few weeks. And the 5th and final hitter I look to drop this week is Ahmed Rosario of the Cleveland Guardians. So last season, in his first season with the Guardians, it was a mediocre but a decent season for Rosario, hitting 282 with 11 homers, 57 RBIs, and 13 stolen bases. But so far this season, we haven't seen anything really from him. 15 to 63 at the dish. No home runs, 5 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a stolen base, a 238 average, and a 294 on base. So right here, it's always been a problem with Ahmed Rosario. He don't draw walks, and his batting average to on-base ratio just hasn't been good. I know he's got good versatility, qualifying in short and outfield, but right now he's not getting the job done. And he's not a big power guy to start with. So if he's not hitting for average, he don't have a lot of use for fantasy. Then April 20th versus Chicago, 1 for 7 in the doubleheader with a run and an RBI. April 21st versus the White Sox, 1 for 5. April 22nd at the Yankees, 2 for 4. April 23rd at the Yankees, 0 for 2 with a run. April 24th at the Yankees, 0 for 3 with a run. And April 25th at the Angels, 1 for 4. So this Guardian team, they're just not hitting the baseball. Rosario's not getting on base, and he's never a big on-base guy like I mentioned. He don't draw the walk, and he's a free swinger. And right now, the ball's not finding the holes, and he's not a power hitter. So right now, I think he's an easy drop this week. Yeah, sure, he could get things going once again. But right now, I just don't see it happening, and I would drop him this week. So that's a few hitters I would look to drop here for week 3 of the fantasy baseball season.